When I was a kid, family dinners felt like job interviews I didn't apply for. Everyone sat around Aunt Diane's oversized dining table, bragging about their latest real estate flips, medical conference invites, and who made partner this quarter. Meanwhile, I was 13 and just trying to keep my elbows off the table and avoid the mashed potatoes that always somehow tasted like guilt. "You should really be more like your cousin Emmett," my mom would whisper. "He already has a 5-year plan." Emmett was 16 and had color-coded binders for his career options. I had a mini welding kit I'd picked up from a garage sale and dreams of turning metal scraps into something useful, or at least cool-looking. The only person who ever encouraged me was Grandpa Ray. And he died when I was 12. After that, the torch of family pride was passed fully to Aunt Diane, my mom's older sister, who thought anyone not in a suit was automatically failing at life. She once said, "Nothing good comes from a job that stains your shirt." I was wearing a grease-marked hoodie when she said it. So, yeah? We weren't exactly besties. I wasn't dumb. I knew the pecking order. At dinners, I was the one they made awkward small talk with, then quietly asked to help clear the plates, while the real conversations happened around the wine. It didn't matter how much effort I put in. When I turned 18 and told the family I'd been accepted into a welding apprenticeship program, I was met with silence, followed by Aunt Diane's signature hum of disapproval and a snort so sharp it could have cut sheet metal. "A welding shop?" she repeated, loud enough for even the salt shaker to feel judged. "You mean, like a garage?" I didn't respond. I didn't correct her either. Just nodded slowly, like I was too tired to explain the difference between welding structural steel and doing oil changes next to a vending machine. Mom tried to change the subject. Emmett coughed into his salad. Someone asked about Diane's vacation plans to the Amalfi Coast, and just like that, my dream disappeared from the table. But I didn't forget it. I worked nights at a machine shop while doing my apprenticeship during the day. My uniform was always stained, my hands were always scraped, and for some reason, I was the happiest I'd ever been. The sparks, the rhythm, the heat, it made sense to me. It was honest. Every weld told the truth. No fluff. No family PR campaigns or LinkedIn humble brags. Still, for 5 straight years, every family gathering was the same. Diane would glance at my jeans, then sip her wine like it hurt her gums to look at denim. "So still welding?" she'd ask, dragging out the word like it was a disease. "Yep," I'd say. "Still welding." No one ever asked why I loved it. Or what I was building. Or what kind of contracts I'd picked up. Not once. Until I stopped showing up. The thing is, you get tired of being everyone's punchline. Of sitting at the table as the cautionary tale. They all treated my silence like consent, like I was okay with being overlooked. But deep down, every skipped invite, every passive-aggressive comment, every fake smile they tossed my way, it burned. But welding taught me something. If you apply heat long enough, even metal remembers. So I saved. 5 years, 3 jobs, no vacations, no help. I skipped fancy takeout, wore boots until the soles gave out, and poured everything into my goal, my own welding shop. I didn't make an announcement. Didn't post it on Instagram. Didn't send a grand opening email with balloons and confetti. Just signed the lease, painted the walls, put up a sign that read, "Forge and Flame Welding Company," and got to work. It wasn't glamorous. But it was mine. 2 months later, I hired my first crew. By the end of year 1, we had city contracts, HVAC support work, and a 4.8-star Google rating. Still no acknowledgement from the family. Not even a, "How's that little garage thing going?" I didn't care anymore. Until one freezing January night, my phone buzzed. Blocked number. I let it ring once, then again. Then I checked the voicemail. And there it was. That voice. Panicked. Cracked. Confused. "Hi. This is Diane. I know it's late. But the furnace, it exploded. There's smoke, and Emmett's trying to. I don't know who else to call." I stood still in the shop, staring at my phone like it had grown teeth. She didn't say, "Please." She didn't say, I'm sorry. I don't know who else to call. I looked over at my crew, still finishing up a job for a bakery across town. Then at our jackets, brand new navy canvas with a flame logo on the back and bold white letters under it. Welding crew, forge and flame. I texted our group thread. Emergency call. Suit up. Address coming in too. Time to show her what a garage could really do. I won't lie, I hesitated. The address she left in the voicemail was burned into my brain. Aunt Diane's house. The shrine of superiority. The house with the oversized marble kitchen island, floor-to-ceiling windows, and family portraits that didn't include me unless I was in the background holding a tray. But I wasn't that kid anymore. I was the guy with a welding shop. With a crew. With a fleet truck outside and invoices with my name on them. I sent the address to the crew thread, and instantly got 2 thumbs up and a hell yeah. These guys weren't just employees, they were guys like me. Underestimated. Overlooked. Overworked. We rolled up at 12:17 a.m. in 2 trucks, still dirty from the bakery job. When we turned onto her street, the rich, gated part of town that practically had a dress code, the glow of flashing lights bounced off the windows like an emergency Christmas display. Fire department was already there, hoses dragging out from the sidewalk. But no one had been able to shut off the exposed metal pipe shooting sparks from the broken furnace connection in the basement. The fire chief spotted our trucks and waved us in. Someone said welders were on their way. That you? I nodded, grabbed my gear, and signaled to Leo and Mike. Inside, it was chaos. Blackened ceiling. Smoke trailing up the stairwell. Aunt Diane stood in the kitchen, hair a mess, wrapped in what looked like a $400 robe with pearls embroidered on the collar. Her mascara had surrendered completely. And standing next to her? Emmett. Holding an empty fire extinguisher like a toddler with a toy lightsaber. When Aunt Diane saw me, she froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Probably because, behind me, my crew stepped through the door, each one wearing navy jackets with the Forge and Flame logo glowing from the streetlights outside. Her eyes landed right on my chest. Mason? She croaked. I gave a short nod and kept walking past her. Which way's the basement? She blinked like I'd just spoken Latin. Then pointed. I could have said a lot right then. Something snarky. Something like, still think it's just a garage? Or, don't worry, I won't stain your floors. But I didn't. We weren't there for that. We got to the basement, assessed the damage, and got to work. It wasn't pretty. The exposed connection was warped, the pipe threading had failed, and there was visible soot across the insulation. Leo handled the arc, Mike kept the area cleared, and I did the shielding. 25 minutes later, the immediate danger was stabilized. We welded the break, patched the joint, and sealed off the source before anything worse could happen. When I came back upstairs, Aunt Diane was sitting at the counter like someone had unplugged her confidence. She looked up slowly. I didn't know who else to call, she muttered. That made me pause. She'd said that in the voicemail too, like it was some confession. But I wasn't looking for her apology. Because let's be real, she didn't call me because she respected me. She called me because she had no one else left. And that said everything. Still, I just said, glad we could help. Then Emmett, perfect hair, still trying to catch his breath, spoke up. That was fast, he said. I thought you were still, just starting out. I smiled at him. Not sarcastically. Just a real, tired smile. We've been around, I said. People just don't always notice. We packed up, signed the fire department's log, and headed back out into the cold. No more words exchanged. No tip. No thanks. No, we'll call you next time. But I wasn't waiting for that. Because the next morning, something happened that did matter. I walked into the shop with a fresh coffee and saw Leo scrolling through his phone. He held it up. You've seen this yet? It was a post. From Aunt Diane. No caption. Just a blurry photo of our crew jackets, taken through her cracked kitchen window. And in the comments? A thread full of her neighbors asking for our contact info. That blurry window photo? It did more for our shop than a year of handing out business cards ever had. By 10 a.m., I had 3 voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize, all with that same panicked, polite tone. Hi, is this Forge and Flame? I think my boiler's making a noise that sounds unhealthy. My neighbor recommended you. Something about an emergency last night? You do fireplaces too? I saw a picture of your jackets on Nextdoor. Can you squeeze me in this week? Apparently, Diane hadn't just posted the photo, she'd shared it in her neighborhood Facebook group. And judging by the comments, it was like opening the gates to the kingdom of over-maintained HVAC units and underpaid contractors. That week alone, we picked up 6 new inspection gigs, 2 residential contracts, and a commercial storefront that needed a total furnace swap. And the most ironic part? We didn't even advertise furnace work. But we could do it, and well, so we did. I never thanked Diane for the post. She never mentioned it again. But I noticed she quietly followed our business page and even left a 5-star review under an anonymous name. DEL. Classy. That could have been the end of it. A moment of cosmic symmetry, a poetic slice of humble pie for her, and a subtle win for me. But karma wasn't done cooking yet. One afternoon, about a month after the incident, Leo walked in holding a printed blueprint rolled under his arm. You sitting down for this one? He asked, already grinning. He dropped the papers on my work table, and right there on the top corner was the address, Diane Langston. I blinked. What's this? Garage conversion project, he said. She submitted a proposal for an enclosed studio space. Needs metal frame reinforcement and duct rerouting. Guess who she put down for a bid? I stared at the blueprints. There was no mistake. It was her house. Her name. And in the margin, scribbled in neat little handwriting. Possibly use Mason's team? They were fast, clean, and professional. It hit weird. Like, almost an apology. Not quite. But maybe the closest I'd get from someone who thought feelings were for people without granite countertops. So I accepted the bid. Not out of pettiness. Not even revenge. Just business. But I will admit, when I showed up to survey the job, and she opened the door and said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd personally come." I smiled. "We run a hands-on shop," I said. Her face twitched like she wasn't sure if she should offer me coffee or ask me to wipe my boots before stepping in. The work took 4 days. We framed her precious little studio space with reinforced beams, rerouted her ducting, installed a thermal barrier, and cleaned up better than any contractor she'd ever hired. The final invoice? Exactly what it should be. No discount. No markup. Just fair. And I hand-delivered it with a stamped envelope. That night I got a text. From a number I didn't have saved. "Mason, thank you. The space looks great. I didn't say it earlier, but I'm proud of you. Diane." I stared at that message for a solid 5 minutes. Because for the first time in my life, my aunt didn't talk down to me. She talked to me. Like I'd earned it. Like I wasn't just some background blur at her dinner table anymore. The week after Diane's garage project wrapped, something shifted. Not in Diane, she was still Diane. Still wore silk robes to answer the door, still triple-filtered her water like she was preparing it for a NASA experiment. But in the family? Oh yeah? The whispers had started. It came in subtle waves. First, a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 2 years dropped into my DMs like we were besties in middle school. "Hey man! Didn't know you were doing so well. Might need a gate welded soon. Got time?" Then Uncle Greg, the same guy who once laughed so hard at my trade school acceptance letter that he choked on a shrimp cocktail, casually mentioned over the phone that he had a little railing rust by the pool I could maybe take a peek at. Wild how quickly "You'll never make it with your hands" turned into "Hey, can you help us fix what the last guy messed up?" But the real curveball? My mom. She invited me over for dinner. Just me. No Emmett. No distractions. No vague last-minute cancellation because she forgot. She had plans. I almost assumed she but dialed me. I showed up with zero expectations and a convenient excuse to leave early, something about needing to check on a Welding gas delivery, total lie. But when I walked into the house, she actually smiled. Not one of those tight, rehearsed smiles she wore at weddings, but something softer. Almost nervous. I made lasagna, she said. Your favorite. From scratch. I blinked. Last time she made something for me, it was guilt with a side of disappointment. We sat at the table, and for once, she wasn't scrolling her phone or asking how Emmett's app was doing. She actually looked at me. You've been busy lately, she said. I've seen the posts. I almost choked. You're on Facebook? Don't act surprised, she muttered. Diane made sure everyone saw those jackets. Said you handled that furnace better than the fire crew. And there it was. The ripple effect. Diane hadn't just posted the photo. She talked. To friends. Neighbors. Family. Suddenly my garage wasn't a joke anymore. My welding shop had become a cocktail party anecdote. We ate in quiet at first. But then, over dessert, store-bought tiramisu, because let's not pretend miracles were happening, my mom looked down at her plate and said, I'm sorry I didn't believe in it. In you. That one hit deeper than I expected. I didn't reply right away. Just took a long sip of water, trying not to stare at the framed photo of Emmett and his startup trophy hanging above the sideboard. Finally I said, took me a while to believe in it too. And it was true. I didn't walk into welding with some grand plan. I just knew it made sense to me, the way metal could be shaped, broken, rejoined, turned into something stronger. Mom didn't push the topic. Just nodded like maybe, finally, she saw it. But healing doesn't mean forgetting. Because not even 5 days later, Emmett called. His voice had that twitchy, polite panic rich kids get when things fall apart. Hey, he said, like we were lifelong teammates. Listen, I might have a project, small fab work. Custom casing for this prototype we're building. I can send specs? His startup, the one that had been family funded like a spoiled scholarship, was unraveling. Investors ghosted. Prototype issues. The revolutionary app idea? Already beaten to market. He sounded humbled. I didn't remind him of the dinners where he laughed when I mentioned welding. Didn't bring up the time he loudly said I was a cautionary tale of wasted talent. I just said, yeah. Send the specs. I'll take a look. Because I wasn't here to play petty king. I was here to build things that lasted. Let them come to that realization on their own. And they were, one by one. You know what no one warns you about when your name actually starts meaning something? The invitations. Not the birthday parties or Christmas dinners, those dried up when I stopped handing out free labor. No, I'm talking about local panels, home expo meetups, and community spotlight nights with names like Crafted with Passion, Small Business Success Stories. Apparently, Forge and Flame had become the poster child for Blue Collar Made Good. I got an email from the Chamber of Commerce. At first, I thought it was a scam, the kind that promises you a trophy and a fruit basket if you just pay $49.99 in processing fees. But no, this was real. Mason Langston, we'd love for you to speak at our next small business night. We'll be highlighting tradespeople who've made an impact. At first, I was gonna decline. Public speaking? Me? But then Leo smacked my shoulder and said, Bro, they want you to talk about welding at a wine and cheese event. That's the American dream. So I agreed. 2 weeks later, I walked into a community center that smelled like budget brie and ambition. The room had maybe 60 folding chairs, a PowerPoint screen, and a refreshment table that looked like a Whole Foods sampler aisle had exploded. They introduced a baker, a woodworker, a solar panel installer, then it was my turn. I wasn't flashy. Didn't try to be inspirational. I just talked about how welding gave me focus. How creating something out of nothing, with your hands, with fire, with precision, taught me more about confidence than any degree ever did. And then I told them this. My family used to call it just a garage. But now that garage feeds 3 families, trains new apprentices, and handles contracts from businesses that once wouldn't even answer my emails. There were nods, smiles, even a few claps. But one face in the crowd made me pause. Aunt Diane. Sitting there in a tailored coat, clutching her purse like she'd wandered into the wrong event, but staying. Not clapping. Not smiling. But not walking out either. After the panel, people mingled. I shook hands, took cards, even got asked to join a local mentorship program. I figured Diane had left quietly. But as I walked to my truck, I heard her voice behind me. You spoke well, she said, pulling her coat tighter. Didn't expect to see you there, I replied. She shrugged. I wanted to understand. I raised an eyebrow. Understand what? Why you kept going. Even when we didn't believe in it. In you. That one landed like a wrench in the gut. Because that had been the question since I was 13. Why did I keep showing up? Why did I keep building in silence, when no one thought it mattered? So I gave her the real answer. I didn't do it to prove anything, I said. I just got tired of feeling invisible. She didn't argue. Just nodded, a tight, complicated nod. Then she pulled out a checkbook. I want to sponsor one of those apprenticeships. Quietly. Anonymously. I blinked. You serious? Consider it an investment, she said. Not charity. Not guilt. Just overdue. She handed me a check, already filled out. It wasn't massive, but it was more than symbolic. It was her way of saying, I see it now. 2 months passed. The buzz from the chamber event settled, but the ripple effect didn't stop. A reporter from the local paper called asking for a quick spotlight. Said I was part of a wave of young tradesmen reshaping the landscape. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my welding helmet. But I agreed, mostly because the photographer promised not to use the stock image of a guy holding a wrench over a sunset. They came by the shop. Took shots of me and the crew mid-repair. Leo flexed dramatically in the background of one, which ended up on the front page of the business section, naturally. The headline? Forge and Flame, from just a garage to neighborhood backbone. I didn't send the article to anyone in the family. Didn't need to. By noon, my phone buzzed with a photo from a number I didn't recognize. The article, cut out and taped to a fridge. The message just said, Look who made it onto Mom's sacred fridge space. It was Diane. I stared at it longer than I should have. The same woman who once mocked my dream now had my face next to her grandkid's macaroni drawing. But the real full-circle moment? That came during a heat wave. Late July. 98 degrees. Power flickering across town. A transformer popped near Diane Street, and boom, half the neighborhood lost electricity. ACs died. Refrigerators stopped humming. Tempers flared. And Diane? Her fancy new furnace? Locked up solid. By then we were swamped. My crew was rotating jobs like firefighters during a 4-alarm emergency. When her call came in, she didn't even try to play cool. I know you're busy, she said, but if you can help, please. I have 3 elderly neighbors. It's not just me. And that's what did it. We prioritized her block. Not because she was family, but because she asked like a neighbor, not a queen. We rolled up in full gear. 3 trucks, 4 techs, 1 mission. The whole cul-de-sac looked like it was melting. Neighbors sat on porches with battery-powered fans. A kid in swim trunks was using a squirt bottle like it was a garden hose. As we stepped out in our navy jackets, sweat already forming under our collars, someone said loudly from across the lawn, Thank God. The welding guys are here. We weren't just the fix-it crew anymore. We were the cavalry. We stabilized the system, got temporary units running, and patched Diane's furnace in 2 hours. Then we did the same for the neighbors. At one house, a little girl offered us lemonade in plastic cups shaped like pineapples. Mike cried a little. Claimed it was heat stroke. And as we packed up, Diane came out holding a tray of iced tea and, get this, paperwork. Maintenance requests. Budget approvals. A calendar of winter prep she wanted to hire us for. I looked down at the clipboard, then up at her. You want to put forge and flame on a retainer? I asked. She nodded. You've proven your worth more than once. I'd rather pay professionals than pretend Emmett can fix things with YouTube tutorials. That made me laugh. It wasn't an apology, but it was damn close. And then she added, almost under her breath, also, I like seeing the jackets around here. I looked back at the trucks, crew tossing gear into the beds, the logos shining in the sun. I do too, I said. By the time fall rolled around, the neighborhood no longer saw me as the guy with the garage. They saw me as the guy who showed up when it mattered. We were on 3 maintenance retainers now, plus a new contract with a property management firm Diane's golf buddy referred us to. Funny how quickly doors open when you walk through one carrying a welder. But something still itched at me. Something unfinished. It wasn't about revenge. Or making Diane grovel. We were past that. It was about something else, something symbolic. So I started working nights again. Not for clients. Just for myself. After closing the shop, I'd stay back an extra hour or two, sparks lighting up the bay while music echoed through the empty lot. No invoices. No pressure. Just me and the steel. It took 2 weeks to finish the piece. When I was done, I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't flashy. No flames or logos or declarations of success. Just a simple wrought iron bench, curved perfectly, with welded vines on the side and the initials D, L, folded subtly into the frame. I had no idea why I built it. It just felt like something I had to do. The next day, I showed up at Diane's house with it in the back of my truck. She met me at the door, coffee in hand. I didn't order anything, she said cautiously. I know, I replied. This isn't for work. Her eyes narrowed like she was expecting me to hand her a bill anyway. Then I opened the tailgate. Her expression froze. Is that? I made it for you, I said. For the porch. Or the garden. Wherever. She stepped down slowly, running her fingers across the welds, the texture, the flow of metal shaped into something soft. Did you do this recently? Last 2 weeks. After hours. She looked stunned. It's beautiful. And then something wild happened. She sat. Not like a test. Not like she was afraid it would collapse or stain her pants. She trusted it. And for a solid minute neither of us said a word. Then she patted the space beside her. I used to think welding was just brute work, she admitted. Like violence against metal. I chuckled. A lot of people think that. But this, she gestured at the bench, this is art. It wasn't what I expected her to say. And that's when I realized something. This woman who once mocked everything I stood for, who practically spat the word garage, who couldn't bear to admit I'd built something real, she finally saw the heart of it. The craft. The intent. The care. She didn't say, I'm sorry, or I was wrong. But she didn't need to. Because sometimes, recognition doesn't come with an apology. It comes with a place to sit. She invited me in afterward. Offered me coffee in a mug that said, Boss Lady, which felt ironic. We talked about the shop, the crew, the plans I had for training new welders from trade schools. Then she asked something unexpected. Would you ever consider teaching? Not full-time. Just mentoring. I know some kids who'd benefit. I raised an eyebrow. You mean kids who might want to grow up and open a garage? She winced, laughed softly. Okay. I deserve that. Yeah, I said. You kinda do. The bench stayed on her front porch. A week later, I drove by on the way to a client and saw Diane sipping tea on it like it had always been there. I don't think she knew I passed, but she looked peaceful. Almost proud. I wasn't expecting anything else. But then, 3 days later, a certified envelope showed up at the shop. Leo handed it to me with a smirk and said, Please tell me this isn't a lawsuit. It wasn't. Inside was a single-page document, notarized with crisp headers. It was a lease transfer. Diane was handing over the deed to her old metalworks warehouse, the one her husband had bought years ago and left unused, collecting dust near the edge of town. She'd signed it over to me. Full rights. Zero rent. Just a single condition written in pen at the bottom. Forge and flame annex teach. Build. Leave the door open for those who come next. D.L. I sat there in the back office for a solid 10 minutes, just holding it. That same warehouse she once mocked me from, saying I could sweep floors there one day, was now mine. Officially. When I called to ask why, she said it simply. You made something out of nothing, Mason. You turned sparks into structure. I don't need the space anymore. But the next you? He might. We opened Forge and Flame Annex 6 months later. Bigger bays. More stations. Welding certification nights. Open shop for teenagers with questions and hands that didn't fit inside textbooks. We put up a plaque above the door. This used to be called just a garage. Now it's where fire becomes future. People ask me sometimes what changed. What made my aunt go from laughing at my dream to investing in it? Truth is, I don't think it was a single moment. It wasn't the furnace. Or the bench. Or the photo on the fridge. It was all of it, built slow, welded together with consistency. See, when people stop seeing you as a punchline and start seeing you as a blueprint, that's when things shift. And the next time someone smirks and asks, a welding shop? You mean like a garage? I don't respond. I just hand them a card. And let them see the name glowing on the back wall. Forge and Flame. Founded in fire. Built with pride.